Hi, welcome to another video from Cardboard East. My name's Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. Today I am standing in Banqiao Stadium, smack dab in the middle of New Taipei City. Now I have some exciting news to talk about today. Today is the launch of the FunBrick Series from Itten Games. Now there's a lot to unpack there in that sentence. First, if you don't know what Itten Games is, they're a Japanese publisher. And for the last few years, they have been making some of the most visually striking board games on the market today. Each one feels completely different and just pops off the table. Each one is like its own little mini adventure to explore and feels more like interactive art than what you think of when you think of a traditional board game. Now, the FunBrick series was released last year. They are a series of microgames. Games that are small and can fit in, not your pocket, but in your bag and you can take them wherever you go. So far to date, there have been 7 games in the FunBrick series. This upcoming Kickstarter will not have games 1 and 2, but will have games 3 through 7. If you've been following Cardboard East's channel, then you've been seeing all of our teach and play videos that we've done for those 5 games. Today, I just want to share my thoughts on each individual game and the whole series in general. So let's go through the series one at a time. Now, I've had the opportunity to play all 5 games in several different groups, and we've all played them together. And without question, the one game that every person in every group ranked as their number 1 was Ninja Master, designed by the doctor himself, Rainer Knizia. Now, I have to say that out of those 5, Ninja Master is also my personal favorite. When I was going into the series, it wasn't the one that I was thinking I would like the most, but it ended up just being that way. I'm not typically a fan of real-time games, but this one was just a lot of fun. Now, part of that, I think, is from our video, I made a few little house rules about just saying ninja more. You're supposed to just say a number when you count the ninjas, but no, you got to say ninja 7. You're supposed to make a pose, but no, you're going to say ninja pose. So these are small little rules, but I think adding those little rules just created more energy for the game, and everyone shouting ninja and doing fun stuff. Now, that aside, I really liked the design. I really liked how bright and colorful it was, and I really love the story arc of the game. When you first play, everyone's moving lightning fast, just grabbing whatever, but slowly as they get to play, like everyone starts playing more slowly. Everyone's hands will jump in and stop. And towards the end of the game, like, no one's going to grab anything until they make sure it's worth points, because you can get negative points if you're moving too quickly. Also, I love the idea of the katana. It's a little bit of a catch-up mechanism, but with the katana, you get to steal half of the first players or the highest scored players' points, and they lose those points. And that sounds kind of swingy, but I think it totally fits well with the game style play. And while you have the sword, it is incredibly, you have a lot of anxiety there, because you don't want the sword. You kind of want just the second highest score of the game and then swoop in for the victory at the final moment. Now, that being said, I have not seen the game where someone wins by grabbing the sword. Usually, if you're having the sword, the first thing you do is you grab the sword to protect yourself. In addition to that, I think it is also the most colorful out of all 5 of the games, and it's definitely one that I would get if I could only get one of those games. Moving on is probably the one that you've probably heard the most of, and that is Viking Seesaw. And I love the name Viking Seesaw because it is absolutely perfect for this game. Now, I love Viking Seesaw because it's so approachable and simple. The boat tilts, you put something on the higher deck, it falls, oh well, and you put stuff on that side of the deck. And at the end of the game, once all the treasure chests have been knocked off, whoever has the fewest pieces wins. It's so simple and so much fun. But there are a few little layers in the game because all the pieces that you have all weigh differently. And so you're thinking about when to put the heavy pieces and when to put the light pieces. The first few times I played this game, people were just playing the light pieces at first. And then there came that moment in the game where you realize, oh, I only have heavy pieces. This is going to get really painful really fast. But it was funny, and it was a great shared experience. Sometimes I played it where people are just offloading their heavy pieces first, and they're slowly pushing it towards the center of the boat as close as they can without it knocking over. And you create some of the craziest configurations, and the boat somehow does not tip over. I really liked Viking Seesaw, and Viking Seesaw you can play with almost anybody. kids is a little tricky because the kids won't really understand the balance of the boat. Sure, they could take things and drop it, but usually I found that the older players have a little bit more finesse, or just enough finesse to not knock the boat over. Next up, I want to talk about Judge Domino. Now, Judge Domino by far is the most quiet of the games. The other four games, there was always talking, there was lots of interaction, and people shouting and screaming and laughing. But Judge Domino is more of a pensive game where players are really quiet and slowly judging the line of dominoes until someone just yells, "Judgment!" Now, on a negative side, like Judge Domino isn't as exciting as saying Ninja 7. But I'm a little bit biased because I think I lean more towards the ninja side. But that aside, the one thing I don't like about Judge Domino is that if you're a new player or a new player is playing at the table, you may not be aware of the real subtle levels that are in, or layers in the game. The layers are a little bit tricky in Judge Domino because you push the dominoes starting from the lowest number to the highest number. So if you're not careful and you're separating the dominoes to make it look like maybe it'll fall, maybe it won't, but then you forget that by placing the domino that you had just placed, you change the direction of where the dominoes are going to fall, and therefore it's a pretty obvious fail. That can be a trap that new players might not be able to see, but experienced players definitely will. And if someone calls for a judgment and there are only 3 dominoes on the table, it's not as exciting and not as fulfilling, and there are only 3 rounds. So if you have one exciting round, one kind of boring round, and one mediocre round, then the whole game experience doesn't feel as exciting. But I think that once everyone is up to that level where they could see all those hidden traps within the game, then you'll get longer and more really interesting experiences. Because when you have like 10 dominoes down and you're really thinking, will it fall, will it not? And then you push it, and then you realize that it fell somewhere like maybe 5 minutes ago, where you are building this line of dominoes thinking everything is kind of fine, but actually the mistake was several rounds ago. And I found that really interesting. Up next is Stick Collection. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of auction and bidding games. I think it's just because I'm not really good at it. What I like about Stick Collection is that usually in auction bidding games, you know what you're getting and you know who you're fighting against. So it's very direct. Oh, I'm competing against player A. I got to bid this, and they're only going to bid that much, so I have to push up a little bit more, and then I'll win. Now, in some bidding games, nobody knows what you're voting on, so maybe it's something that you want, and maybe it's not, and that's part of the risk of the game. Now, Stick Collection does something that I haven't seen before, and that adds fuzziness. Because there are 9 different heights of sticks, and you think of it as there are 4 1s, and then 4 9s, and then 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And you're trying to get runs. So maybe you have a 2 and a 5, and you're looking for those 3s and 4s. But when you stick the stick away from you, when you plant the stick away from you, you can kind of tell if it's tall or short, or maybe there, and it adds fuzziness to your vote. And I haven't seen that in an auction game, and I find that really, really interesting. Because in addition to the fuzziness, you also get the moment when you take the stick and then you put it in your hand and you compare it to all the other sticks, and the whole table collectively says, ooh, ah. And I love those little moments in games. The one that I didn't like about Stick Collection is that it does my least favorite thing in gaming, and that's leaning. Because I've played a lot of Euros or strategy games where you're constantly leaning to get resources or get contracts, and I hate that. I absolutely just hate that. But Stick Collection makes you lean on the side, and I've never had that experience before. But it definitely adds to the group thing and adds to the experience with every player. You add a new stick to be auctioned off, and then everyone at the table just leans off to the side. And it's this great shared moment. And you too can do your laundry here. Sorry about that. And now it started raining, and then we had to move. But here we are. Last but not least is 3-second try. I think out of all 5 of the games, the one with the most striking component is the timer from 3-second try. Now, I'm going to hold off for a second there and let me explain what I mean by that. Usually when you add a timer in a game, it's a sand timer. And sand timers are fine, but they're widely inconsistent, meaning that one side could be like 10 seconds, the other side could be like 15 seconds. So you have to be really, really careful. Also, they're quiet. So sometimes the sand timer's done and no one notices at the table because they're so in tune to what's going on at the game. Not the case with 3-second timer. And I love how elegant it is. The only thing it needs is gravity. And with each sound it makes, your anxiety level goes up. And it shouldn't make a difference, but it does. And I love how that slight change in what should be a typical game makes it that much more interesting. I love how the ball bounces only 6 times before you hear this nice buzzer sound. And the engineering behind it is really fascinating because it's just gravity and a magnet and a magnetic ball. And I love how the art design at the end kind of looks like an arrow showing the direction of where the ball's going. It's almost hypnotic in a way, just listening to the ball drip down to the bottom and buzz. Now, this little timer adds so much gravitas and anxiety to the gameplay, and it creates so many hilarious moments because not only do you have to say whatever word like terraforming Mars like 4 or 5 times or many times as you can in 3 seconds, or jump as many times as you can in 3 seconds, you also have to stop the ball from landing on the magnet. So it creates this other layer to the normal standard gameplay. Now, the only downside for a 3-second try is that you have a 60-card deck, 30 and 30, and I think after a few plays, you might begin to see some cards that you've seen already. So it could get tiring from that. But I still think the game is totally worth it just for that timer alone. And there's nothing to stop you from creating your own questions as a group. Now, on the Kickstarter campaign, there will be 3 tiers. Tier 1 will be the Rana Knizia games. So you can get Ninja Master and Viking Seesaw. Tier 2 is the 3 Japanese designer games. So you can get Judge Domino, Stick Collection, and 3-second try. And then Tier 3 is getting all 5. Now, I do think that if I could only get one of those, I would go for Ninja Master because that's the one that I find that most people enjoy, especially in my various groups, and everyone had a great time playing it, and they all ranked it as their number 1. However, I don't want to discourage you from trying and exploring each of the games from the FunBrick series because they are actually all very different. You like auction games? I think Stick Collection is something that's worth exploring because it distills that and boils it down to a very fuzzy experience. You like party games with lots of trivia and questions and answers, then 3-second try adds this fantastic timer that just makes the whole game tie together like Big Lebowski's rug. If you want a micro game that's really pensive and makes you think and has everyone really in tune to what's going on at the table, then Judge Domino is a fantastic choice. And if you want table presence for days, then Viking Seesaw is really fantastic because putting that on the table, everyone just instinctively knows what's going to happen and how you're going to play. But all 5 of these and the whole series in general really showcases what an amazing publisher Itten Games is, and I definitely think they're a publisher worth your attention, worth discussing, and worth playing. Now, in the last year, we have seen lots of Japanese publishers going and using the Kickstarter platform to sell their games, and it creates this excellent opportunity for people outside of Japan to collect games from Japan, because even here in Taiwan, which is just a stone throws away from Japan, it's really hard to find games from Japan. And this is the kind of FOMO that I like in Kickstarter. This is the FOMO of if you don't back it, it's going to be really hard to find later on. And I've made the 5 teaching plays to kind of give you a better idea of what each game brings to the table. And I wanted to give this one to share my final thoughts with the games after I spent some time with them. Now, people are going to be talking about money because people always do. Normally in my videos, I don't talk about money because, well, in my mind, I think board gaming has become a luxury hobby. And I think it's really easy for all of us to forget that. And that there are a lot of people who spend time making a board game. There's the designer, there's the developers, there's the publisher, there's the artist, there's the people who make the UI for all the players, there's the people who come up with all the manufacturing and the components, and when you put all that together in one little box, that's a lot of hours of work. So I don't mind paying extra. But I do understand that some games can be kind of expensive. But I'm going to throw that all out the window because Queen's Games came up with the city games, and those city games are hella expensive. Like over $100 for Marrakesh. I think Marrakesh looks like a great game. I would totally play it, but I don't know if it's worth $120 compared to some of the other strategy games that are that much, and you get so much more. So is the itten games worth the money? Well, that's not really for me to answer. That's for you. I mean, can you pay your rent? Can you feed your family? Can you take care of yourself? Do you have some disposable income? Are you looking for games that you can take with you that are portable and that are fun and fast, that are on and off the table in 30 minutes? Well, I think the FunBrick Series is definitely worth looking into and definitely worth your attention. And if you haven't already, please check out those teach and play videos because I think they'll give you a better idea than me standing here in the middle of this beautiful stadium, sharing my thoughts and opinions. Once again, my name is Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. I'm going to leave some links to some videos up here that I think you'll enjoy. See you there.